Welcome back to Daily Persuasion. I am your host, Joshua Lisec. I am the New York Times bestselling author and co-author, as well as a ghostwriter of more than 90 nonfiction books: business, health, politics, career, science, philosophy, the good stuff. I'm also a professional certified hypnotist, and it's through this one-of-a-kind filter we curate the day's news so you can better learn to influence the VIPs of your life. We're now going to look at a couple of viral posts, respectively from Mike Cernovich, the journalist and independent filmmaker, and Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert and bestselling author, and famously, my client. First, we're going to start with Cerno's tweet, which was just published a few days ago. It's still making the rounds. It's still being shared. And he said, "I don't want to speak carelessly or with bravado, but I'm not going back. I will not submit, ever or in any way, to what we lived under 4 years ago, a hostile, occupying regime. I just won't." Now, understand that we are at a point now in which the opposition media has admitted, they have revealed, they have reported, saying, of course, we were totally shocked and had no idea, that President Joe Biden was mentally incompetent. Not just during the entire presidency that he had, but prior to that, during the campaign, before he had even won the Democratic primary. He was mentally incompetent and incapable, and everyone in the inner circle knew it. And it's also coming out that news media covering the Biden administration favorably also knew it as well. And of course, they had to pretend they had absolutely no idea. And yet everyone knew, but not us. We had no idea, but everyone knew. But no, this sort of speaking out of the both sides of your mouth, forked tongue approach to communication that the left tends to take, where in order to save face, they have to lie about everything all at once, all of the time. I think of Alexander Solzhenitsyn, the Gulag Archipelago, right? I know you're stealing. You know you're stealing. You know that I know that you're stealing, and yet you steal anyway. That is the left on every topic, and of course it was a left-wing administration that ruled the Soviet Union, as covered in Unhumans, the New York Times bestselling book, famously endorsed by Vice President J.D. Vance, whom we are calling number 48. We're now going to look at Scott's post, in which he, quote, posted on X, formerly Twitter. And Scott said, "Yesterday I was remembering how innocent we were in 2016, or at least I was. We just preferred Trump, no big deal. Then came the shaming, the canceling, the physical threats, the intimidation, the social stigmas, the economic attacks, the fake news, the corruption, and eventually the revelation of the entire corrupt architecture of the country. Now we're smarter and not so innocent. We're tougher, we're mad, and we have reinforcements that are more powerful than anything we have ever seen. We're not just supporters with a preference this time. Now it's ride or die. We will protect the Constitution. We will right the ship. Decisions have been made." In his live stream, a couple of minutes after he posted this, he said, "This is a 1776 moment, hopefully without the muskets." I believe this is true. As we talk about in Unhuman, specifically chapter 13, in which we lay out how to undo the cultural Marxist irregular cultural revolutionary war that has been waged upon the American people since the 1950s, following the departure of both Marxist philosophers from Europe into America, as well as literal Soviet spies and radicalized influencers who wanted to subvert the founding of this country and turn the United States into a dystopian, anti-Christian hellscape. Chapter 13 of our book, my co-author is Jack Posobiec. Some of you know who that character is. He and I, being two interesting little personalities, we analyzed every aspect of the communist revolution and how to undo them in a country. And it requires will to power. It requires a decision, and yet it requires strategic apathy. Remember what Generalissimo Francisco Franco said, who famously saved Spain from the Soviet Union. Understand that Soviet Union had been in the process of colonizing Spain. The socialist government there allowed communist guerrillas to go about slaughtering, stealing, looting, assaulting, all manner of things that are unspeakable, but certainly rightable. Some of them. Some of them are just so dark and ghastly, you're just thinking, a human being couldn't do this to another person. Correct. That's why it's called Unhumans. Because what the left-wing ideology does is it unhumans, it dehumanizes, it depersonalizes first its own side. its foot soldiers, so to speak, so that they can go and do these heinous acts. And we've had such personalities and such characters running our institutions after having infiltrated them many, many decades ago. Chapter 13, if you want to know the future of the United States government, if you want to know what this resolve from Mike, from Scott looks like, then why don't you go read the book that is the most influential book of the most consequential election in American history. Yes, Unhumans was the best-selling book of the summer, 2024. It came out days before the attempted assassination of Donald J. Trump, and then, of course, the palace coup of Joe Biden. And in the book, we predicted that this is what happens during an uprising. I digress, but what we cannot disagree on is that Cerno and Scott are correct. 100% correct. Now, if you have any liberals in your life, it will be as if they have just started the pilot episode and you're watching part 1 of the season finale of season 12. They would read or hear, and some of the comments are going to show this on this video. They're going to read or hear Scott, Cerno, me, Jack, the Unhumans book, what Scott and Elon are up to, or what Trump rather and Elon are up to. They're going to see all this, and they're going to have no concept of what's going on. So they're going to simply read and regurgitate every meme. We talked about this elsewhere on the channel. It's always sarcasm, but it's a sort of moral superiority grandstanding within the sarcasm and analogy-based thinking, where it's just like this other thing. They're going to say it's Elon Musk is literally like Hitler taking power. Oh my gosh. This is what they do every single time. The best way you can get them up to speed, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do a different video. I think maybe I'll talk about this in a couple of days. How do you get liberals up to speed so they have a clue what's going on in the world? I'll do a future episode on that. I'll go ahead and end it here. Don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. All I can say is like, subscribe, reply, and you don't even have to like it. You can tell me how much you hate this episode. That's okay. This is what I do.